Is ID 231121. Consider adoption of ordinance of the City of Denton adopting Chapter 21, Article 5 of the City of Denton Code of Ordinances titled Marijuana Enforcement, providing repealer, cumulative, and severability clauses, and declaring an effective date. So is there, okay.
Mayor, just to let the council know that we do not have a presentation for this item. So.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, so we have a number of people that are seeking to speak. We're going to reduce, it is traditionally 3 minutes for this. We're going to narrow it to 2 minutes. And so that's just because we have over 32 people signed up to speak. And so want to be mindful of that. First is Julie Oliver. If you can come down and give your name, you'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Julie Oliver. I'm the Executive Director of Ground Game Texas, and I'm here tonight to primarily speak to you all about why this ordinance does not violate state law, which it doesn't. If I was standing here 5 years ago, I would say that I would concede that this ordinance as written would violate state law. But the 2019 Farm Bill happened, state ledge, and we now have a legal substance in Texas that is marijuana. It is low-potency marijuana that is completely indistinguishable from illegal higher-potency marijuana by look and smell. The only way to prove that something is illegal marijuana is to test it at a state licensed laboratory. And these are very expensive tests, and they take quite a bit of time to get the results back. And if you're going to trial, you have to have a laboratory technician, also attest that the testing was done in, well, I'm blanking on the word, but basically the laboratory test was conducted in the right way. So this is something that is very expensive for municipalities. And in 2019, many local police departments and DAs and county attorneys decided they were not going to enforce low-level marijuana offenses anymore, possession cases, because of the fact that you cannot tell on site whether something is illegal low-potency hemp or higher-potency illegal marijuana. And it is well within your right as a city council to decide items to budget. And if the city, through its policymakers, y'all, or the voters, decide we don't want to pay for testing, that is well within the right of city council. It is also well within your right to avoid the risk of unlawful arrest and, honestly, unlawful seizure of substances when somebody is pulled over. So I want to let y'all know that I'm here, I'm available for questions if y'all have any, but this doesn't violate state law because there's ambiguity in the law with the 2019 Farm Bill.
Okay. I do have a question, though,
Sure.
if that's okay. Have you reviewed the Denton City Charter 2.10, Section 210?
Tell me what please, if you'll.
Certainly, it's a separation of powers. So it dictates that the council cannot give direct orders to people that aren't the city's direct department, that aren't our direct reports. So, meaning I can't wrongfully influence a police officer to not give my wife a ticket. So there's a separation there to say I speak with the city
manager can.
That's right. And so can we agree that there's about 5 sections in this city ordinance now, it's on the books, that stipulates that we are to give direct orders to police officers. Do we agree?
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I agree that it is now the manager's duty to implement this.
Well,
and you as a council body can give direction to your manager to do so.
Well, it says Denton police officers shall not issue citations. That's a direct order to the police officers. Yes?
It's just an ordinance language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we disagree there. I just don't want to be complicit.
I don't agree that this is a separation of powers at all. And other cities who have implemented the exact same thing don't arrive at that conclusion either.
Yeah, I've not read their charter. I understand.
Well, most of the charters, and I think Sarah probably is familiar with Austin's charter, has something similar.
It may. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I didn't read it.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah,
any other questions for the speaker? Councilman McGee, question for the speaker?
No, sir. I had a process question for you before this first speaker. I hit the button, so I'm happy to do it now or wait till all the speakers are done.
I'm going to get through these. These people have been waiting, so I'm going to get through them. Any other questions for the speaker?
This might actually pertain to that.
Go ahead. What's your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. No other questions. Yes.
Is it helpful to put the ordinance on the screen for those in attendance tonight to be able to see what exactly it is we're discussing?
Well, I don't know that we have it. No, but I don't know if that works. Yeah, we'll see. If staff has it, they'll pop it up. If not, we're going to keep going because, again, we got 30 people to get through. That's
Thank
an
you,
hour.
Mr. Mayor.
Kirby Wallace, if you can come down and give your name. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Kirby Wallace. I'm a staff attorney with the Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas, and I have had the distinct honor and privilege of representing many of the officers sitting in tonight's audience. And I will say I can speak for CLEAT by saying that we are vehemently opposed to any measure that would impede an officer's ability to use discretion or uphold the laws of the state of Texas. Denton police officers take an oath to enforce the laws of this state. Now, I realize in 2023, some people might not take oaths seriously. These people do. They take their oaths very seriously to uphold public safety and uphold the laws of this state. While state law provides an avenue for marijuana cite and release, it does not remove an officer's discretion, nor should it. Other factors should be accounted for when an officer makes a decision on a custody arrest. That discretion is of the utmost importance when it comes to officer safety and their ability to protect and serve. And on a personal note, as a former assistant criminal district attorney, I humbly personally know that using the odor of marijuana has led to the many arrests of violent felons and fugitives. And to take that ability away from officers impedes upon public safety, and it impedes upon them doing their job. Denton has always been a vibrant, safe, and welcoming city. This is thanks in no small part to the men and women of the Denton Police Department. And I urge the City Council to vote no on this ordinance. Let Denton PD continue to provide excellent public safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? See none, thank you. Louis Paisan?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah. Yeah. Bear with me. Yes. You come on up, come on. Yes, thank you. Yes. Mayor?
I had questions for Mr. Wallace.
Okay, well, if y'all could do me a favor, the 2 minutes they're talking, go ahead and hit the button. That would, because I'm going to keep it moving, right? Because we got 30 people, that's 1 hour. So if you, give me just 1 second. Excuse me, I'm sorry. If you can come back down, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. The 2019 Farm Bill, you agree that set a threshold level of 0.3% THC content for different varietals as the legal threshold limit?
I would agree with that. It's been a while since I've read the Farm Bill, so going off of memory.
And do you know whether you can tell the difference in smell between hemp, D8, or THC varietals of cannabis?
Based on the smell that is in council chamber right now, I hazard to guess it's not hemp, sir.
So while I appreciate the humor of that, you actually, all cannabis smells the same because it's not from the tetrahydrocannabinoids or the cannabinoids that are the source of the odor. So I would hesitate your canine units couldn't even tell the difference between hemp, D8, and D9 or THC. So is it, in your experience, do the police vehicles, and since you have a lot of experience in the region, do they have gas chromatographs or other testing facilities in the vehicles?
They do not have gas chromatographs to my knowledge. However, I will stand firm on what I have said tonight, and that is based on the smell of marijuana alone. That has led to the numerous arrests of violent felons and violent fugitives. And to take away an officer's ability to create probable cause based on the odor of marijuana is detrimental to public safety.
The Farm Bill did that.
Again, based on this ordinance, removing an officer's ability to form PC on the smell of marijuana is detrimental to public safety. Now, I'm not going to stand here and argue about what the Farm Bill did or didn't do, but I think that there are some serious issues with this ordinance. I think it runs afoul of state law, and I think at the end of the day, you're asking officers to set aside their oath to uphold state law. That's an issue. We're not just talking about letting someone go who has a joint in their ashtray. You're ordering officers to not make arrests. You're ordering officers to not enforce the law. They have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. And the fact that you're going to put in this ordinance that they're going to be disciplined for upholding state law, that is a problem as well. And I understand the need that you don't want to spend money on testing every single pot plant that officers confiscate. But I hazard to guess that the City of Denton also does not want to pay for every single arbitration that CLEAT's going to take if you discipline these officers.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Thank you. Thank you. Luis, thank you. If you can give your name, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the community. My name is Louis Bazana. I'm a detective with the Denton Police Department. I've been a police officer for 7 years, and the Denton Police Department has been the only police department I've been employed with for the duration of my career. I am here to speak to members of the council and to the community about decriminalization of marijuana. I would like to start by speaking on personal experiences I have had as a peace officer as it relates to marijuana. While working as a patrol officer, I constantly encountered subjects who were in possession of marijuana. There were countless times I contacted drivers who were under the influence of marijuana and driving while intoxicated. A common theme identified was drivers did not see the problem. They did not believe it was a big deal because it was just weed. They did not believe that they were swerving all over the road and putting other drivers at risk. Another common theme was the odor of marijuana establishing probable cause to search a vehicle that led to the solving of violent crime or recovery of illegally carried weapons. With that in mind, I would like to speak about the specific experiences I encountered as a member of the Violent Crimes Task Force. The task force was created in response to a spike in violent crime in Denton. During my time as a task force member, we were constantly coming into contact with gang members illegally possessing weapons. Quite often, marijuana would lead to the search that led to the discovery of the legal firearm. In my experience on the task force, gang members with guns were a very bad thing. I conducted and assisted in countless investigations in which these gang members were involved in shootings in our city. In addition, almost every single robbery I investigated or assisted with that was drug-related was related to marijuana as opposed to other drugs. I do not have the exact statistic with me on the number of murders related to marijuana, nor will I speak to the ones I can recall in order to protect the integrity of those cases, but I can say I cannot remember a homicide investigation that was related to narcotics and the drug was something other than marijuana. I can most certainly say, in my experience as a police officer, marijuana is directly related to violent crimes. Legalizing marijuana and removing officers' ability.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sorry. And then there's last name McKinney. First name starts with R. There you go. Thank you. Appreciate you. Right. Okay. If you'll fix it for me. Sorry.
Hello.
Hey.
My name is Raleigh McKinney.
There we go. Thank you.
I'm an officer with the Denton Police Department. Before that, I was an officer in Colorado for 4 years, where I spent my entire life. I am here to tell you about the violent crime that it created legalizing marijuana in Colorado. And not only did it create more violent crime, I saw an uptick with overdoses. Our fire department was inundated with calls, constantly going to people overdosing on THC. Our fatalities and traffic accidents went up 140%, from 55 a year in 2013 to 135 in 2019. I don't like those numbers. I don't think anyone in here likes those numbers, and I do not want to see that happen in Denton. I came here to serve and protect, and I want to continue to do that here for the city of Denton. And I think that legalizing marijuana is the wrong choice.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Jeff Laughlin.
Hello, my name is Jeff Laughlin. I've had the privilege of serving the citizens of Denton for the past 19 years. Prior to me taking an oath as a police officer in the state of Texas, I had the honor of taking another oath when I swore to uphold the Constitution of a member of the United States Marine Corps. I proudly served in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years, where I served alongside some of the greatest people I've ever known. In my years at Denton PD, I was able to serve as a police officer, detective, SWAT team member, and task force officer. During that time, I have used my discretion, reasonableness, compassion, and my knowledge of the law to ensure that everyone is treated equally and to hold others accountable when needed. I have used the smell of marijuana to locate and recover large amounts of illegal narcotics, including fentanyl, illegally recovered weapons, and at times I have arrested individuals for marijuana just to keep others safe. I do all this under the laws of the state of Texas, which gives me the authority as well as the ability to use my judgment. When I first started working here, officers, including myself, arrested numerous individuals for low levels amounts of marijuana. Over the years, I, along with my colleagues, have come to realize that each case is unique and each circumstance has its own set of facts. This realization is why Denton PD has seen a drop in the number of marijuana arrests in my career. I have also seen horrors on college kids' faces after they had gun pulled on them and robbed for just an ounce of marijuana. Marijuana possession is not just about smoking it, as there are other harsh crimes that can come along with legalizing marijuana possession, as we recently worked a double homicide in reference to marijuana. At the current time, the possession of marijuana is illegal in the state of Texas. The authority given upon me and the other officers at Denton PD come from the state of Texas. I took an oath 19 years ago to uphold the laws of the state I call my home. I firmly believe that we, the Denton Police Department, are doing an outstanding job in making marijuana possession a low priority while still upholding our oath. The enforcement of this ordinance is unnecessary and against the laws of the state of Texas.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you for your service. Yep. Eric Beckwith. If you can give your name, you'll have 4 minutes. Say, how are you?
Hi, my name is Eric Beckwith, and I'm a sergeant at the Denton Police Department. I've been in Denton PD for 21 years. Prior to that, I was also in the United States Marine Corps, where I served my country and swore an oath like Detective Laughlin did. I also swore an oath to the state of Texas that I would enforce the laws appropriately, and also to the citizens of the community of the City of Denton. As long as I've been here at Denton PD, I've been a resident of the city. I've lived here 21 years. I've raised my daughter here that went through Denton ISD, graduated from Geyer High School, went to college, and has a college degree, and she's now going to teach at Ryan High School. My son is about to start first grade. Yes, I kind of started over, but he's about to start first grade. I have an interest in this community. I live here. I serve here. I have an interest in this community. I know what comes along with degrees of marijuana possession. And I also know that officers need the discretion to be able to enforce the laws of the state of Texas that are given to us. Like Detective Laughlin said, when we first started, there was a lot of low-level marijuana arrests because it was a different time back then. We're aware of the times and that the times change, okay? And we're adapting with those times. We're not out to throw everybody in jail. We're using discretion, but to take a tool away from officers, such as the odor of marijuana, we're not going to get guns off the streets that don't belong in the hands of criminals, all right? We're not going to put gang members in jail that are out there committing violent crimes. Think about people have to buy the marijuana somewhere. Would you want a grow house or someone dealing illegal drugs next to you? What's that going to do to property values? There's a lot of other considerations other than just the police if you adopt this ordinance and pass it. I think we need to not adopt this ordinance. The police needs discretion on how to do their job to keep the community safe.
Got it. One question, because you make a good point, and just to kind of get a visual of that, I'm assuming at some point when you're into policing, you couldn't have tattoos, all these kind of things, and I see all the time that's been relaxed. to make accommodations for people. Am I wrong?
Times change, sir, and the police department has changed along with the times. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Chris Summit. You can give your name. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for giving us the opportunity to speak. My name is Chris Summit. Been with Denton Police Department 27 years. Right now, I'm a lieutenant. It's the only police department I've worked for. Like Sergeant Beckwith, I'm vested in this community. I've raised 4 children, put them all through Denton High School. I have 2 kids at UNT. I've lived here since 1993. So, to quote Sir Robert Peel, the police are the public and the public are the police. We are members of the community too. I just want to touch on the political toxicity surrounding this. One of the things that I love about Denton Police is we have the support from our fellow officers, we have support from our department leadership, we have support from our elected council, we have support from our city manager, we have support from our community. And as we politicize this issue, I feel like, now we're having public calls to fire a police chief because he's it's unsure whether this ordinance is legal or not. I would say people have opinions, but it's not decided. The law hasn't been settled on this. So that's going to destabilize our department. People come to work here because of those things, because of the support. And when we start dragging our leadership through the mud, whether it's city manager, police chief, or me when I refuse to discipline an officer for acting within the scope of their authority, all that does is destabilize the department. Right now, our numbers are pretty close to what our allotted staffing is. You look at other agencies, they're 25, 30% down. That affects service delivery to the community. So I want to keep Denton a desirable place to live. I think passing this ordinance, politicizing this more than it is the wrong course of action. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Darren Briggs.
Evening, Mr. Mayor,
Hey,
council
good evening.
members. My name's Darren Briggs. I'm a sergeant with Denton PD, with 29 years on, coming up on 30. I'm also a board member for the Denton Police Officers Association. This ordinance just flies in conflict with state law, and as several of the officers have already mentioned, it impacts our discretion and discretionary ability on the street to safely and effectively enforce the laws and to keep people safe. Nobody in Denton PD is doing this as a power trip. We are all here to serve. We're trying to do the best we can in times that this nation has not seen in a generation, and it's very, very difficult as it is. To clear up something that is probably a misconception, a lot of media coverage about 71% of the voters supported this. 71% of the voters that bothered to show up and vote supported it. Unfortunately, voter apathy is very real in this country. I wish it wasn't. But if you look at the total number of registered voters in the city, about 36% of the registered voters supported this ordinance in the November ballot. It's bigger than just a legal issue, though. It's a public safety and a public health issue. For the last 11 years, I've been the supervisor or one of the supervisors in the traffic enforcement section. I have been to nearly probably 90% of all the fatality crashes that have occurred in the past 11 years in this city. Impaired driving is an epidemic, and marijuana is part of that. We need these tools. We're trying to keep the roadways safe. We're trying to keep the residents of Denton safe and all the people that visit us. If we lose these tools, it's going to make that much harder. There's also mental health issues that come into play. There are now studies that support the fact that THC has impacts on mental health issues. There's a Danish study out now that shows a 30% increase in schizophrenia in young males due to marijuana use. It's not just the legal issue that everybody wants to debate. I mean, that's a serious issue, but there's a public health and a public safety aspect to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donald Thornton. If you can give your name, you'll have 2 minutes.
It's Donald Thornton. Thank you, City Council. Currently serve on the Chief of Police Advisory Board, and I am privileged to serve with these brave young men and women for the past 2.5 years to learn more about what they have to do and what they have to go through to serve our city. I support them wholeheartedly. I'm here, obviously, against this proposition because for several reasons. Obviously, the danger of it, the public safety of it, obviously, it's been mentioned several times. The racial component that's been brought up by these people who are supporting it, it's erroneous. And we've seen several times in the past where many times these people who are pushing the idea that the will of the people, the will of the people, the will of the people should be paramount are the very same people over 101 years ago in this very same city voted to evict people who lived in Quakertown. That was the will of the people as well. So I want to make sure you understand that. There was a majority of Dentonites who voted to evict black people right over here in this park. The city council put that up for a vote, and the majority of the will of the people 101 years ago voted to evict black people out of their homes. So keep that in mind when you talk about the will of the people, because there are times when the will of the people is wrong, and this is one of those moments. I bring the racial component into this because it's been brought in by Ground Game Texas, because they've raised this felonious idea that the police are out arresting black people disproportionately.
Oh, hey, excuse me, can we, just a minute, pause the time, can we get him, thank you.
Can I get some of my time back?
Yes, if you can reset it, 30 seconds, and just please, I'd love for you to stay, but I don't mind asking you to leave. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So those are the things I want us to understand. So we have to understand that. The police in this city, I've seen what these guys do. I've talked with former Chief Dixon and now new Chief Shoemaker. These people put their lives on the line to protect our city. Don't believe the lie. Don't be hoodwinked, because if you think they're just going to stop at decriminalization, they're not. They're after legalization. And once they get there, I want you to think about what's happening in LA, in Portland, in all those cities that have decriminalized, cities in Colorado that started with just decriminalization and now they've legalized it. And where you see, as people have mentioned before, mental health issues, crime, homelessness have all increased.
Thank you very much.
Please consider not approving this proposition.
Robert Head. If you can give your name, you'll have 2 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Head. I'm a veteran that has a 501c3 called Hemp for Victory. And we have on our board Major General Todd Bunting from the Kansas City National Guard, Dr. Corey Birchman, who is a Harvard-trained anesthesiologist, former colonel, and he also teaches at Dartmouth. We also have Lieutenant Colonel Todd Scatini, who's liaison overseas in the Slavic area during his time when he was in, also a West Point graduate. The reason why I'm up here is to let you guys know a little bit about veterans and their relationship with cannabis. 60% of veterans are going to use cannabis 60% more than the general public, largely due to because they have more comorbidities than the average person at their age. I served for about 5.5 years, did 2.5 tours in Iraq, and as I came out, majority of the men and women that I served with are using cannabis. And the reason why I bring this up in the decriminalization issue is that the gentlemen that I'm talking about, if they're single and they're just going to UNT, getting their degree, and they're probably using cannabis as a way of medicine and a tool to help them focus and keep on a day-to-day basis. If they get a family, and then all of a sudden that's taken away from them. Because now it's not them that pays the price. It's their family. So they go back to the pills, and they go back to the alcohol. And while I understand the arguments coming from the police department, I get a lot of it, not all of it, I'm not gonna lie to you, a lot of it's crazy, but some of it is very true, that the problems that have come here is because of the criminalization of marijuana, but it is being used as a medicine. And I don't think it's fair to punish the people who are being used as a medicine that are good citizens, because we're worried about a drug that you guys criminalized 80 years ago, and now we're dealing with the after effects of that. We're going to have to figure this out. It's going to get legalized, guys. There's nothing you're going to do about this. At some point in time, the next 10 years, it's going to happen. So at this point in time, we need to figure out how to work with our citizens during this decriminalization. We're going to think of something new. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. And then, forgive me if I say this wrong, Cannon Johnson, am I close?
Sorry, Cannon Johnson.
All right, thank you.
How's it going, everybody? Kanan Johnson, Eagle Drive. I'm just here in support of Prop B. I'm a local bud tender that works with veterans as well. We have many veterans that come in from PTSD, from sleeping problems, from everything, and they come in are getting different variety of cannabinoids, Delta 8, HHC. There's over 128 cannabinoids. And I know most people are thinking about THC and they're scared of THC. There's over 128 other ones that help a lot of other people, and they all smell the exact same. So I'm here in support of Prop B. I'm a local bud tender. People who have diseases, veterans, everybody, they're needing this medicine, and we're the good guys. So don't punish us for using medicine that we need.
Okay, thank you. Travis Eves, you come down and give your name. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Travis Eves. Hello, Council. I'm here today to support decriminalization. I don't use cannabis myself, but I have friends and family who do, and I think there are some genuine therapeutic applications, both for clinical conditions and just the stresses of modern life. I think that cannabis use is not directly conducive to violence. I think sometimes it is associated with it, but I think lots of people use cannabis. And perhaps this ordinance is not the best way to decriminalize. It seems like there are a lot of problems. There's a lot of pushback from the police department, and I don't want to be enemies with the police department. I think we should be on the same side. And I would just like to see some sort of support from them on this issue also. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. And next is Austin, and I'm going to let you tell me your last name. There we go. That's it. You did great. Give it to me again. I want to get it right.
My name's Austin Zamhariri.
Zambariri?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you, Council. My name is Austin Zamhariri. I run I'm the executive director of the Texas Cannabis Collective, a 501c4 dedicated to reforming cannabis laws here in the state of Texas. And I am here to tell you that as an active lobbyist at the legislature, that once again, the legislature in the state of Texas, who we keep hearing that we have to go back to the legislature to change these laws, has failed us one more time. We keep going back. We keep getting House approval on penalty reduction bills, supermajorities in the House from 2019, 2021. This past year, we had HB 218 that was approved by the House, only to get stalwarted by one man who presides over the Senate that will not hear our legislation. And so now they kick the onus back down to the cities. And because I would also like to highlight that the laws did change in 2019 when HB 1325 was passed by the Texas legislature. And that legalized hemp under 0.3% Delta 9 THC by dry weight. And all other isomers, derivatives, and naturally occurring substance of the plant. This includes CBD, CBG, THCV, THCA, over 100 different cannabinoids. And there is not a police officer or a canine unit in the world that can differentiate between the smell of the different hemp cannabinoids that are permeating throughout the entire city of Denton as we speak, being sold in hemp compliance. The state legislature in 2019 kicked it down to the city level for y'all to figure out how to enforce a law that has been unjust for almost a century in the state of Texas. And now I ask the city of Denton to get compliance questions from TDA and DSHS.
Got it. Thank you. I do have one question for you, though.
Yes,
have you looked at the tickets issued here in the city of Denton, and is there one that you take an issue with?
You said tickets?
Yeah, tickets.
Citations?
Citations. It's on the books, right? It's a city ordinance. It's been on the books since it passed.
Yes.
Have you looked at any of the citations, arrests, et cetera, and that you feel have been done in error in the city of Denton?
I think that the people voted for no citations, and that's what I support.
Right. So, but I'm saying.
Yes, I have looked at the records, and I think that the people voted in November was 71%.
Right.
That was a record turnout, 33,000 people in the city of Denton.
Yes. My question is this, though, pretty succinct. We can still arrest people, right, for crimes, yes?
Yes.
So I'm saying, of those arrests that you just mentioned, are any of those done in error, or were there's still drug-free zones, there's still, there's gun issue, there's other issues with why you can arrest someone. My question is simply, have you reviewed the City of Denton's arrest, and do you take issue with any of those?
Yes, I take issue with any of them that were done out of compliance of Prop B that was voted in November of 2022.
If I represent to you none of them were done out of compliance, would you disagree with me?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so you reviewed them?
Yes.
Okay, got it. I'll follow up with that. Thank you. Okay, and then Madison Powers.
My name is Madison Powers. Good evening, City Council members and fellow citizens. Today I stand before you as a proud resident, a local business owner, and a passionate advocate for change. Denton's journey towards a progressive and compassionate future depends on addressing two pressing issues. Firstly, Denton citizens have clearly voiced their support for Prop B, which received an astonishing 71% approval rate. We can't get people to agree on anything ever, so 71% is kind of hard to ignore, but it is being ignored. The persistent delays and denials in implementing this measure undermine the democratic process and the voices of our community. I urge you to respect the majority's choice, embrace progress, and swiftly implement Prop B. Secondly, I want to highlight concerns regarding the actions of Denton's Police Chief, Mr. Shoemaker. Disturbing disparities in cannabis-related arrests disproportionately affect people of color, violating the principles of justice and equality cherished by Denton. Additionally, I have operated a mobile dispensary in Denton that serves Denton citizens, including many disabled individuals in need of compassionate care. Through our work, I've witnessed the transformative power of cannabis, providing relief to those facing difficult circumstances. My fellow entrepreneurs and I support the decriminalization movement, working to educate and create an environment that embraces responsible cannabis use. Hindered by the lack of Prop B implementation, our progress is stifled, denying our community the benefits of a more enlightened approach. Together, as a united Denton, we can make lasting change. Let us embrace democracy and justice by implementing Prop B and ensuring equal treatment under the law. Holding our law enforcement accountable for any disparities and biases, we strive for a police force that fosters trust and serves our entire community. We have the opportunity to build a future that uplifts the voices of our citizens, fosters economic growth, and creates a thriving community based on unity and understanding. Members of the City Council, I implore you to listen to our collective voice, champion justice, and work towards a Denton that embraces change, empowers its residents, and builds bridges towards a brighter future. Thank you.
I do have a question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I can't let the statement about disproportionately affecting Black people go without asking this. Is that numbers that you've looked at and analyzed?
These are numbers that are available to the public that have been posted online through Decrim Denton and several other organizations.
Okay, and I'll just represent to you that those weren't people, they didn't check to see where those people live, right? So, and I just say that because it means it's very sensitive. I take it very serious. I think your concerns are valid. If you know of someone that feels like they have been treated unfairly, we have a hotline you can call, and they can file a claim and file a report, and we'll address that absolutely. Because as the first mayor that has broken through, I understand the challenges there, but I also understand that the numbers online, just to let you know, when you go back and check them, I don't know that they reconciled them against residents' percentages versus just people passing through. For example, we had 8 Black people that were arrested for robbing, stealing an ATM. I don't think that all ATM robbers are Black, but if you checked at this date in 2023, the statistics would show that all Black people steal ATM machines, right? So it's weird, but I'm just saying, just double check the numbers before taking that position on there. I think that the calculations were done in error. So just for what it's worth, you can, like I had an old pastor friend said, you can eat the meat and spit out the bones. So ignore it if you need to. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Joseph Adam? If you can give your name, you'll have 2 minutes.
Hey, my name is Joseph Adamo, and I live here. You might look at me and have a lot of assumptions, but I'm not against the police department. I value each and every member of our community. But it's ridiculous what's happening. People are getting arrested for CBD because you can't tell the difference just on smell alone. CBD smells the exact same. And people are getting arrested for things they can buy at a smoke shop. Like, I just, when it gets down to it, people are being arrested for legal substances, and that's an issue, and that's not what should be happening. And I'm really disappointed at where we're at, and I don't know what else to say. I'm going to end my time.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Demetrios Ertz? One more time? Okay. Are you? Okay. Then Max Anderson?
Hello, thank y'all for having me out today. I think we all know that the majority of the city wants this to be passed. How the laws right themselves, that is up for y'all to decide. And that is up for the lawyers who know more about that to decide. What I really want to talk about more is how much I love the city of Denton since I moved here. I moved here last fall to come to UNT. Unfortunately, my student aid didn't go through, so I couldn't go. And it really hurt me. It really kind of set me back. And getting to go to school in the spring was a really impactful moment in my life. I really changed a lot of my habits. I feel like I became a better person. And I attribute that all to the fact that when I was 16, I was pulled over and my car smelled like marijuana. And the cop officer chose not, he knew, but he bypassed it. And he used his discretion, which we can all acknowledge that they have discretion. But I got lucky. I got lucky with a good cop that day. And because of that, I don't get denied FAFSA. I can still go to school. And it's very important to me. I care a lot about this community. I hope that, I can raise my family here one day. I love the area we live in over off of Linden Drive. And, working with the city now, I get to see a lot of great faces, some of y'all's faces I've seen over here at the Civic Center. And, oh my gosh, I pressed something, sorry. And I just think about the future of all the people who go to school here, and I don't want them to lose, their ability to go to school here. I think about the kids that I work with, and I don't want them to lose opportunities because they get arrested one day just for having a little bit of marijuana on them in their own hometown. So, thank you.
And if I could say this, just I know you're already working, right? You're good, but just to say, Target and Walmart have they front tuition so that you don't have to pay it back or turn in receipts, and so they're really good about that. So if you ever, I just want to encourage you to go whenever you're ready to go back, and that's another vehicle that people may not know about to pay for. They front the tuition for you. I don't know how many hours you got to work, but it's a resource.
I love the city of Denton, and this is where I want to work.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like if you're gonna do like extra, like a second gig or something to pay for school, that sort of thing. I love you working for the city of Denton too. It's a great place.
Cool.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Eva Greco, if you can give your name and you have 2 minutes.
I did write down what I was going to say, and I'm going to forget all that because I sat here and I listened, and I can't believe the misinformation. I can't believe the misinformation that we are hearing from people that we're supposed to look up to. I have law enforcement in my family, police officers, my daughter's a firefighter, cousin's an FBI agent, okay? But to sit here, and I respect law enforcement, but to sit here and have law enforcement misinform the public is absolutely disgusting. It's an embarrassment as a resident of the city of Denton, okay? And I've never in my 67 years heard of anybody overdosing on marijuana. That has never happened, okay? I fought hard for this, okay? The people have spoken. We're supposed to work together, okay? And all we're getting is pushback. Pushback. We have a police department that is pushing back against their citizens. That's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to sit down and talk and come to a happy medium somewhere. And I say I only have 28 seconds left to go. So in closing, I would just like to say that Shoemaker needs to go.
Kenny Severson? Sorry.
Hi, Severson.
Severson, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Kenny Severson. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I am an Air Force veteran. I work at UNT. I'm a state employee. I didn't want to talk about any of that tonight. I wanted to talk about two things. First is democracy, and the second is justice for all. Democracy is clearly something that I fought for, but it is something that we're all fighting for right now because we already voted this in, and it's your responsibility as elected officials to see it happen and to find a way. And the other part is justice for all. The criminalization of marijuana is a racist policy from the war on drugs, and we are, as a society, trying to move past it. And you can tell from the testimony tonight against this measure that those white supremacist dog whistles are in there, and they are there to scare white people to be opposed to this. But as an Air Force veteran who uses this as medicine, and as a person who fought for these people, this is not going to stand. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate
Thank
it. Richard Hayner?
You got it right. My name is Richard Hayner, and I just can't help but think back on when I was younger, and we've been fighting this for years, over 55 years for me, and it's the same old thing. We keep running into the same lies, the same misinformation, and the same stalls. And you just need to do your job and do what the voters said. And you don't count people that didn't bother to vote. You don't do that. You don't say, well, it was 71 that voted, but no, you can't do that. But you do have to listen to what was said. And if you can't find a way to do it, then step aside and let somebody else come in and do it, because it needs to be done. We were told that we had a vote here in Denton to stop fracking just in the city limits. And we got that vote. And what happened, the people in Austin decided that they would just say, we can't do that. We, the voters, can't make that choice. And that was wrong, and y'all know it was wrong. And now you're doing the same thing. So don't do it. Just do what you're supposed to do. Do your job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And then Brett Flores.
Good afternoon. Brett Flores. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council members. And I'm just going to make this quick. And we've heard people come up here tell you the reasons why we should have this pass and why we shouldn't. And I'm going to amplify a voice that was spoken tonight. And I'm frightened, mainly because I've heard a lot of misinformation, a lot of information that has been spread that we're supposed to trust to the police to make these decisions. But based on what I've heard tonight, from schizophrenia to overdoses, not true. We have 50 plus year, not 50, but 20, 25 years of research that have come out to show this is not true. Will this be passed? I don't know. But we will be back. This was just the beginning, and I just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jared Panko? Forgive me. Help me out.
Hi, Jared Panico.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm a Denton resident. I recently graduate from UNT as well. I mean, I don't really use cannabis. I've got a lot of friends who do. I represent Students for Sensible Drug Policy at UNT. And I've seen a lot of the harms that have been caused to these friends, not from the cannabis itself, but from nearly getting arrested or nearly having their lives ruined or actually having their lives ruined. I have at least, off the top of my head, 3 friends who, they lost a lot of opportunities because of, possession of small amounts of marijuana. And I want to help and protect those people. And I've seen a better world, and I know this is scary, but I think that we're all here to fight injustice and work towards a better future. And I know that even the people here who are the most staunchly against this will still work to protect people and protect against injustice and adapt to that, because we're smart. We're not just going to be like, oh, we can't do anything because cannabis is decriminalized. No, we're going to make changes and work through with that. So, and that's all I've got. Thank you, and I cede my time.
Thank you. Marshall Lunsberg?
Hello, my name is Marshall Lunsberg. I support Prop B. I'd just like to say that in my experience, marijuana brings people together. It facilitates the formation of new and exciting, innovative ideas. Me and the rest of the members of my band are here because we believe that marijuana has helped us immensely, creatively, has provided me and my friends with some of the best moments of our lives. And honestly, it's sickening to know that people are getting arrested for perfectly legal amounts of these substances. This whole thing is ridiculous. Marijuana opens people up to love. Yeah, that's it. Keep Denton groovy. Thank you for y'all's time.
Thank you. Sage? Sage? No, thank you. I'm sorry.
Hello, counselors. My name is Sage, and I live by UNT, and I will spare you a lot because a lot of people are going to, I have already told you, why this isn't illegal, police have discretion, all that thing. So I'm going to talk about the things that, the elephant in the room, the things that people might not talk about, and that is that this law is unjust, and we have our moral duty to oppose unjust laws because the voters are not always right, but neither is the law. And whenever the law dictates a law that has originated in racism as an excuse to arrest communities and put them in jail and into legalized slavery in accordance to the 13th Amendment, it is our duty to oppose that and to not do that. As people have said repeatedly for here tonight, our institutions are supposed to protect and serve its people. And what people are not talking about is, yeah, sure, there might be criminals who also who commit violent crimes that do harm the communities, who also use cannabis, but that does not mean that cannabis is harmful. And the fact of the matter is that this law harms a lot more people by arresting innocent people who have done no other wrong than use something that helps them, honestly. And it is up to us. We have this opportunity to say we should not enforce an unjust law. Because, we've already gone over why, it isn't against the law to ask officers to not do this. And I don't really think that we should put trust in that people will not use this for ill. I strongly urge you to oppose this.
Okay,
Thank
got
you.
one question for you. Councilman McGee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Sage.
Hi.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that this law is rooted in racism. Can you say more about that, please?
Yes. if you look at the history and the origin of this law, it was used, it was illegalized, which isn't it's probably not the right term, for no other reason than the fact that people of color, such as Hispanic communities, Black communities, et cetera, are more likely to use that. And if you look at the historical texts, and which I've gone over extensively, I'm a big history nerd, you can find quotes about people saying that reefer makes those slurs think that they're equal to white people, and a lot of things like that. It's rooted in racism, and we should not continue to enforce this law, which harms innocent people. Like, yeah, sure, it might result in some good of like arresting people who might not otherwise be arrested for other things that are harmful, but it's not worth putting a lot of innocent people in jail and subjecting them to institutionalized slavery. Thank you. I hope that answers the question.
So let me see if what I know tracks along with what you know.
Yeah.
To make sure we're kind of on the same page.
Absolutely.
With respect to racism specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, going back to the 60s, neither one of us was here. Based off of my understanding and what I have studied was Nixon flooded communities with drugs.
Correct.
Okay. So, based off of what we know from Ehrlichman, Nixon flooded hippie communities with marijuana and Black and brown communities with cocaine. He started the war on drugs, correct?
Correct.
So then in 1980, we have Reagan coming behind this and doubling down on the war on drugs, correct?
Correct.
And it's not a partisan thing, because then in the 1990s, we have Nixon hitting us with 3 strikes and you're out, which then therefore removed an entire generation and a half of men, particularly Black men, from the home. Does all that track with what you studied?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Jeanette McKenzie.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jeanette McKenzie. I've lived in Denton for over 5 years now, and I've been a member of Decriminalize Denton since the very beginning. This ordinance broke many records at the polls, with the sheer number of votes being more than any ordinance, city council member, or mayor has ever received in the history of Denton, as well as more than either governor candidate in every precinct in Denton. We had historic voter turnout. Voter apathy comes from people feeling like their vote doesn't matter. When I was out knocking on doors in the neighborhoods collecting signatures for this ballot initiative, people said, "Why should I sign this? Even if I vote it, they won't pass it. My vote's not gonna matter." If you want people to continue to show up, show them that their vote matters. We had a historic voter turnout. That should be respected. We were a bipartisan organization with bipartisan support. The members who have quote unquote been dragged through the mud of our police leadership would not be dragged through the mud if they were doing their job by protecting democracy and protecting the will of the voters. If smell is the only thing that you can use to solve violent crime, I would suggest that these officers go back to school and find another career, because there are many tools that can be used in detective work. This ordinance, as said by many people, does not violate state law. It simply says that council should direct it to be put at the lowest priority. But a public information request that we did showed that there was an over 200% increase in arrests for misdemeanor marijuana possession since Prop B's passing. 200% increase. And that's not even including any racial disparities. DUIs are still illegal. Driving under the influence has nothing to do with this. But accountability for officers should be for all, just like it is for every citizen. And I yield.
Okay. Is this a new question? Okay, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carson Parker.
Hi, my name is Carson Parker. I've been in Denton for about a year now, and I wanted to come here to make sure that my voice was actually heard, because from what I've been able to see, from my experience, my voice it seems like is not being heard. I believe in democracy. I believe that the voices of the voters should be respected and it should be brought about in a way that is presented by the legal system and the justice system. If anyone has an actual problem with the legality of this bill, then let the courts decide this. Let the systems that we have put in place to judge these things, judge them. And instead of imposing your own personal beliefs about marijuana, your own personal uses about it, instead of imposing that upon the community, I believe that these things should be talked about freely, and free thought should be encouraged. And we need to continue this because decades upon decades we've seen that this war on drugs, which is really a war on community, has not only traumatized the community and members of the community, it has reduced the amount of options available to people simply just trying to get by and live their life as citizens of the United States and citizens of Texas and Denton. We wish to just be able to live freely by not hurting anyone. This isn't about DUIs. This isn't about very vague blanket statements about marijuana supposedly increasing risks of schizophrenia. I have friends with schizophrenia that smoke marijuana. They're fine. I have friends with Tourette's. I have friends with anxiety. I personally struggle with anxiety and depression, and in my experience, marijuana has medicinally helped me. And I see my rights being imposed and my own voice being imposed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Nick Stevens?
Hi, it's me again, Nick from Decriminalize Denton. I want to start off by thanking Ms. Hensley, Mr. Reinwan, and the former Chief of Police, Frank Dixon, now Assistant City Manager, for always dialoguing with community members with hard topics. I wish that Doug Shoemaker would do the same. That would be welcome. I had a lot to say, but instead I have to combat a lot of misinformation from the mayor and the DPOA, so hopefully I have enough time to do that. One, again, you cannot overdose with THC. Any cop that disagrees is welcome to come over to my house and we can figure that out together. The CDC and the FBI both acknowledge also violent crime is not associated with cannabis use. We are not asking you to discipline cops. That's not what the ordinance says. Actually, Doug Shoemaker is the one that gets to make that policy per our ordinance, not you. We're not firing cops. That's up to the chief of police to determine per our ordinance based on city policy. Again, another important thing to understand is that this does not decriminalize DUIs. If you are driving under the influence, you should go to jail. The ordinance does not make any exception to state that. We just have to let those people off the hook. In the same way, if it's associated with a violent crime, you go to jail. The ordinance was written to address that. The most important thing I actually want to point out, though, is it was mind-blowing. I heard all of these police officers say, don't take away our ability to use the smell test. Did you hear that? But I thought I heard the chief of police for weeks now say that you don't use the odor test. So which is it? I don't know. I'm confused. And so, again, what's most important to recognize is it doesn't matter what any of us here today say. It's that 72% of Dentonites already told you what to do.
Thank you.
And you are here today to represent their voices, not your own.
Thank you. Aurora Masters? Yeah, I don't know. Are you? Okay. I just wanted I didn't know if that was you or not.
Their phone died, so they sent it to me.
Okay. I don't know if they have it. That's what he's asking, but I don't know if they have it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Aura. At least that's what I go by. And I just have a little small speech here. I'm going to go ahead and start. It says, "Dear fellows Dentonites and Texans, I stand here before you today to speak in favor of decriminalization of marijuana in Denton County. As a member of this community, I believe it is time for us to reconsider our stance on this issue and embrace a more compassionate and practical approach to drug policy. For many individuals like myself, marijuana provides a safe and effective alternative to traditional medications that can come with a host of side effects and risks. As a single disabled parent with lupus, I know firsthand the challenges of managing chronic pain and illnesses while caring for my children. I would much rather have the option to smoke what looks like a cigarette on my porch than pop a bunch of pills in front of my children. But beyond the personal medical use, decriminalization can have a larger positive impact on our community by shifting our focus away from punitive measures and toward prevention and treatment. We can better address issues related to substance abuse and addiction. We can also reduce the burden on our criminal justice system, which is currently overwhelmed with drug-related cases that could be better handled through other means. So I urge you, my fellow Texans, to consider the benefits of decriminalization and to support efforts to make the change happen in Denton County. Let us work together towards a brighter, more compassionate future for ourselves and our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Logan Larson.
Hello, my name is Logan, and I know that you guys don't know me, but I live here in Denton, so you should. I want to bring back some humanity to this whole situation. This is all extremely ridiculous. From the get-go, we are putting our voice out there. We really want to be heard. We're really trying to participate in our democracy, and I feel like you guys, a lot of you up here already have your minds made up, and you don't want to listen to us. You don't want to fight for what's right. And I just want to say, reflect, realize that we are one and the same. We're all humans. We're all humans here, and we're all trying to have a good future for ourselves, for future generations. We just want to live in a world where things are just and right, and the way that the system is right now is broken, and it's not right. I give the rest of my time so I don't waste y'all's. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you. Deb Armature. You give your name, you have 2 minutes.
My name is Deb Armentar, and I want to address some of the misinformation that I've been hearing. So first of all, one of the officers mentioned that the racial demographics provided by Decrim Denton are erroneous. These racial demographics from Decrim Denton were taken from the police incident reports. We got them from y'all. From a public information request for police data. So that is what we're using. So I'd be very curious to know what exactly is wrong with these racial demographics. Secondly, I'm going to read to you in full the section of Prop B on discipline. It is a single sentence long, a single sentence. Any violation of this chapter may subject a Denton police officer to discipline as provided by the Texas Local Government Code or as provided in city policy. That's it. That simply means discipline will happen either as the state decides or as the police chief decides, because we all know that when it comes to police department discipline, that does fall under the authority of the police chief. This is really a very, very modest law. Also, there was only one DWI in the entire 3-month reporting period. One DWI connected with cannabis. For just in case anyone thinks there are all these cannabis-related DWIs, that is just not happening. Instead, the police data shows that people are being pulled over. Their privacy is being violated for just minding their own business. daring to smell the wrong way.
That's your time. Thank you.
I'll take questions.
Donna Smith? And after Donna, we have two others, and so that'll conclude our public comment. Go right ahead.
My name is Donna Smith, and I'm grateful that all of you are here tonight. And I know we've talked about this topic a number of times, and I still have concerns about this. And so I'm asking you to not support Prop B. And a couple of reasons why is that the law is important. And I do appreciate the fact that all these men and women are in the room and they're passionate. They want democracy. Truly, go down to Austin. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I made my voice known on many different bills that were down in Austin in this past legislature. Some things I got I wanted, some things I did not. And that's just the way democracy works. But right now, and I'm glad right now, that it is not legal in Texas just to do what you want. My big concern is that if we say, oh, we're just going to look the other way, the illegal stuff that comes in, you don't know where that came from. The cartels are real. They don't care if they poison people. It's about the money. It's about power. And so for the sake of our residents, they need to be protected, even in my thought process. But I would like to see them protected. The other issue I see is that to tell our city manager, to tell our police officers, do not obey the law. Don't do it, because our local law ordinance is greater than the Texas law. I think that's a huge mistake. It's a mistake. And I do support our police officers. We want them to do their job to the best of their ability. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have one question. Councilman McGee?
Hi, Ms. Smith. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
You still owe me a prayer, remember?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
I have a question for you, but it's also for everybody else in the room and everybody tracking along. You asked that we not support this. Are you aware that the ordinance we're talking about tonight is already on the books in the city of Denton?
I am aware that people voted for it. I am aware of that.
So given that people already voted for it on November 8th, are you aware that this is already on the books? That regardless of whatever we do or don't do tonight, this ordinance will still stay on the books. Are you aware of that?
I'm going to have to say yes and no. I'm aware that it is there. I think it's not legal. So if that brings us to a place where the state of Texas would sue us, then obviously we would spend taxpayer dollars to either defend it, or I don't know what they would do, if they would give us a fine. I'm not sure how that would work. But it seems like the taxpayers would lose money either way that went. But just because because the citizens voted for it, the gentleman's point was correct. Over 100 years ago, the citizens voted to have people removed based on their color. We would never want that. So just because the citizens have voted for something doesn't mean it's a good idea. And it's illegal right now. And we want our city to be safe. So please see to it that we're safe.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
I yield back, Mr. Mayor.
Sam, and your last name starts with A. There's an L after that. A-L-P-H, maybe O-K-E. Any of that ringing a bell? Anywhere close? Okay. All right. Well, if you fill out a blue card and you don't get called, okay. Richard Gladden, that's be our last speaker.
I'm the last speaker?
That is correct. Give your name, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. As a lawyer, it's almost impossible for me to keep my comments to 2 minutes, but I'll do my best.
I'll help.
My name is That means I'm going over for sure now. First of all, my name is Richard Gladden. I live at 1822 West Oak. I think it's important that all council members focus exactly on what we're talking about and what y'all are considering tonight. We know that this is a political issue. We also know, as I think one of the law enforcement officer testifiers or commenters tonight realized, is it's a legal question as to whether or not the initiative that's on the books is or isn't inconsistent or valid in relation to state law. Courts decide what the law is. I'm a lawyer and I don't get to decide what the law is. And so people who take oaths of office pledge to follow the law as determined by our courts when it involves a legal issue. When you deal with a political question, it's a foundation of our democracy that majority votes settle disputes in our communities when we disagree. And it pains me a little bit that our community is split up over this issue when we're talking about something that grows out of the ground that nobody can overdose taking. I think we're going to get through this, but what I suggest is the police officers that spoke before you told you that they are against this. Well, they voted. They came up short. They lost by 71%. The reason why they don't like this is because they want to continue engaging in indiscriminate searches because it might lead to evidence of violent crime. So would chewing gum. So would being black. So would being white. So would being Hispanic. That's why we have a Fourth Amendment, so law enforcement officers, like you've heard tonight,
Thank you.
don't search people for indiscriminate, arbitrary reasons.
Thank you.
Under the justification of finding some violence somewhere.
Thank you. And so then also, comments that they submitted comments. There's Walter McElhaney is in support and Keith Sugart is in opposition. So they've registered their thoughts as well. That concludes comments. I will open it up we still have consent agenda stuff to get to in the rest of our agenda, but I'll open it up to brief, succinct comments, a motion, any of the above. Councilman McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I requested for a minute ago, can we see the language on exactly what we're voting on tonight? Is staff able to pull up the proposition?
I'm working on that now.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, that's the extent of your comments, just waiting on that? Right? Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for legal, and that is if the motion as I made a couple weeks ago to vote this in exactly as written, plus 60 days to evaluate any changes as well as come up with an implementation plan. We discussed this all in work session. My question legal is the only item of dispute may be the 2182, which is whether petitions have the power have budgetary power. Is that correct?
I think what you're addressing, is, was there a problem with the initiative in the sense that it appropriated money, and our charter for the city does not allow the initiative the ability to appropriate money for the city. And so I think what you're going to is, yes, the initiative is effective today. That component of it that appropriates money that says you're not going to use funds to test may have an implication, a negative implication. It may not be fully adopted in the sense that it may have been outside of the scope of what the charter allows through initiative process.
So really then we're voting on whether to give an already existing I mean, if I boil it down, we're voting on whether to give an already existing piece of legislation budgetary power. And it's my understanding from the reports that we've gotten from various staff members that the cannabis is being destroyed when it's seized, and we can get into the issue of whether they're seizing legal hemp and opening us up to illegal seizure and whatnot, and as a separate item. But if we are destroying the paraphernalia and not testing, then we have a $0 change between yesterday and whatever happens today, because we're essentially voting on a budgetary matter by enforcing what is already on the books as 21.5. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, there's two parts to it. Yes, I think the primary piece, I don't know all the parts you spoke before about the different effects of this. Yes, I think you're filling in a gap budgetarily that maybe it wasn't allowed for through the initiative process if you adopt this tonight. But you're also making a council vote tonight, which changes it, doesn't change it, but it layers on top of it. Before, it was an initiative adopted by the citizens. You'd also tonight be taking action as a council. If you were to approve it, it would be now a council action.
Okay, but I'm confused. It's my understanding that citizen petitions have all the power of council except for budgetary power. So they have all the power of council. I'm going to repeat myself, except for budgetary power. So if we add our voices to this tonight, we're not changing anything other than budgetary power.
As far as the ordinance, yes. As far as what it was adopted or how it was adopted, yes, you are. You're changing it from an initiative where they stepped into the shoes of council to now it's a formal council action that subjects you as a council member to potential challenge as well. You're taking action versus what you did before was just approve what the initiative was. You canvassed the election. It became operational by law.
Thank you. I'll let other people comment then before I make a motion or anyone else makes a motion.
Councilman Burke.
You know, earlier today in a work session, I had already made my comments in regards to what I think about this matter. I had noted very early on when this first came before the council that I was not excited about this ordinance here for a number of reasons, but I was very excited about the activism to bring it forward. I am so proud of our community for pushing the envelope. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to push ourselves to find out who we are and what we're going to do with ourselves. And whenever we're speaking here, everything that we do on this council is always for the future. Can't go back and change the past, but we can direct what our future is going to be. I was not pleased with this because I am directed towards the well-being of the people that take care of us, and that's our law enforcement officers. And they're the ones that's standing right smack dab in the middle of this. And they have come through with their professionalism, and they've given us their words, and I've heard your words. And just to let some of you all know, I am a former law enforcement officer. Back in the olden days, I got a lot of gray hair, so I've been able to be out of business for a while, but I do know what it takes to be everything and on 100% all the time. And if we expect our law officers to be 100% every single time, we are going to saddle them with something that's very, I don't know the word, it's going to be something that's it's going to harbor some ill will. Now, this is what my issue is. My issue is that we don't really have a marijuana problem here in town because all the people that smoke marijuana smoked it yesterday, they smoked it today, they're going to smoke it tomorrow. And I'm asking each one of us, what difference is this going to make? How is this going to change the way that you use, deliver, protect, all of that? What difference is this going to make to you? Really. You don't smoke it, it don't matter. You use it, you're gonna still use it. You're gonna still get it because it's everywhere and it's been everywhere. But now, my problem is that we put our police officers right here in the middle of it. They've got to go out and they've got to be on 100. They've got to make the right decision. And when we're putting that stress on our officers, all of this is bringing in a bunch of confusion. That's why we're having a hard time dealing with it. Since last year, we've been talking about this. We've been trying to find a way. We've spoken with the police department and the ACM and the city manager. What can we do to find all of the legal things about this? What can we do? We asked them. We pushed it back. It came back. We pushed it back. And finally, we have an opportunity to say yes or no. I don't want my law enforcement officers to be in a predicament. I want to protect my law enforcement officers. I want them to have the direction. I want them to do what they're supposed to do. I want to support my police chief. He's come here with the word, and we have to depend on someone. We keep just going to fire everybody. Whatever you don't like, let's just get rid of them. We don't like the city manager, well, she got to go. We don't like the police chief, he got to go. We don't like the guy in the landfill, he's got to go. Everybody's got to go. And here we are having to depend on these people. Now, here's what the other problem is with me, is that we were going steady, rocking steady, having communications back and forth with the city manager, she going to the police chief and the ACM and saying, what is it that we can do? We want to do that. Well, the law enforcement officers are right there. Then you turn and pivot to, oh, let's bring the black people in. We can't get what we need. Well, let's bring the black people in and the people of color. You're mistreating them. Now we got to get rid of it. I'm offended by that. Okay, sir, I'm just going to be just a moment. I'm offended by that. Can't get what we want. Let's talk about the marginalized communities. The marginalized communities, I already know we're marginalized communities across America. We have problems in the police department with racism and homophobia and misogyny and all of those things. So I put the onus on the police chief that if you're hiring people like that, I'm gonna be right on top of you because I will know, because the reports will show it. And if we got police officers out there that are deliberately targeting African American people where they can't live their lives, once all of that is over for them, when they get out of jail, now they have a record. That's the problem. We have to demand more from our police department. It's not the marijuana. It's the racism. It's the systemic racism that we find in our police departments. I want my police chief to tell the world that if you are a homophobic and you're racist and you're a misogynistic individual, do not apply to this police department because we are not going to hire you. Your job is to take care of us. Now, I'm also thinking, all of these African American people, do they live here or were they just coming through? What was the deal? I haven't read the police reports. I want my police officers protected. I want them to have everything they need, all the tools that they need, because I may have to call on them someday. And if some guy comes in and tries to come to help me, and they see that I'm a brown person, and they're a racist, and they do not call for help, EMT or whatever else, on time, in a timely manner to help me, that's what my problem is. We can talk about the law all day long. It's not going to change the way that you deliver your drugs, use your drugs. We're already had negotiated with the police department that this is a low-level situation for them. They don't have time for one marijuana joint, a reefer, as he likes to call it. They don't have time for that. They have time to do the hard work. And we have to depend on these people and our fire department too, because a lot of times they're first responders as well. I want to get off of this subject. I don't want to go any further with this subject. I want us to be done with it. Our job is to take care of one another, and that includes our law enforcement folks. We hold them at a very high standard, and they're meeting that standard. And if they're not, that's what we need to talk about. The particularities of why is it that we have more African Americans that have a higher rate. That's their job to figure that out, okay? So if we hadn't gone along and now we pivot to this, and all of a sudden African American people are gonna say, oh, I'm so glad that they're supporting us and they're protecting us, the white people. Come on, all right? This is a conversation from Hawaii all the way over Key West, Florida, and then some. So I don't want to lecture, but what I'm saying is that marijuana is here and it's here to stay. And if you fool around and have in DUI, DWI, whatever we want to call it, and you get pulled over by the police because your headlight is out and they stop you and there you are, they smell it. You can smell the stuff all day. If it's been smoked or if it hasn't been smoked, it has an odor. Now you're telling me that I'm a drug dealer, I got all kinds of stuff in the trunk of my car, and when I come through Denton, all I gotta do is just smell like marijuana, and they're gonna say, oh, have a great day, and move you on down the line? Is that what's gonna happen now? We're on a major thoroughfare, I-35, coming all the way from South Texas, all the way up through Illinois, headed up and moving out. It's okay. Got this college town. We know it's marijuana out here. People are smoking marijuana. We had a drug dealer to come through here and tell us he's delivering to police officers, not to police officers, I'm sorry, but to teachers and to people in the lawyer's office, a DA, everybody's smoking this stuff. They're doing it in the privacy of their homes. It's recreational. They're doing their own thing. But we have to, the bottom line is how is our police department responding to it? You all think on that. I think I'm done. Thank you. And
Okay.
by the way, I said what I said. I'm not gonna answer any questions. And I'm not gonna respond because I said what I said. And that's all that I'm gonna say. Thank you.
Councilman Holland.
Mayor, point of order, please. Are we looking for a motion at this time?
Yes, sir. Motion, discussion, et al.
Then I would like to make a motion, and I'd like to discuss it, presuming that it gets a second. I'd like to move to deny ID 231121. Deny it, repeal it, whatever the proper language is.
Point of order, Mayor. You can't
State your point of order.
Can't put a negative motion in.
Can't put a negative, Matt, help me out.
Motions are meant to process forward, not step backwards.
Yeah, I think that's generally the rule, although we've done a lot of motion to denies. It's very common practice for the council to do a motion to deny as well.
Okay. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay. So, got it. So there's a motion to deny. Take your point, but I guess we've done it in the past. Does that help me understand the history of that?
Frequently. I think we have a practice or a rule that says we're supposed to do motions in the affirmative. But we have a rule. We have a rule that says we should do motions in the affirmative, but our common practice is to do motions in the negative as well. We do frequently motions to deny. It's very common. We do it on lots of zoning cases as well. But ultimately, I'm advising you, Mayor. You make the ultimate call. You're the chair.
Okay, got it.
We can't hear back.
Okay. He just said traditionally our practice is that we can move to deny. Councilman Byrd made the point that motions are to be in the affirmative traditionally, but this body has done it both ways, where you can move to deny or move to approve. So I'm going to accept the Councilman Holland's motion to deny just, and we'll see if it gets a second. Is there a second? The show of hands, because I don't want anybody to lose their place in queue. So, Councilman Watts.
I guess clarification on the motion. Are you saying a motion to deny the ordinances that is presented today on this agenda item? As
Yes.
it's written?
Yes, sir, that's exactly that's my motion.
To deny the motion as written that the council is being asked to vote on today?
I actually prefer the word repeal.
Well, yeah,
We're not posted.
Mr. City Attorney, if you could
Right,
address
we're
that.
not posted to repeal the existing ordinance. This is an ordinance of the council. We were asked to bring a duplicate ordinance today, so.
Okay, then to deny, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
So in effect, if this was approved, the underlying ordinance, the initiative that was approved in November would still be on the books. That's not up for a vote tonight.
Okay, so if the motion is to simply deny the ordinance as written before the council tonight, as in the backup, is that the motion? Okay, then I will second that motion. And I
Okay.
guess it's open for discussion.
So we have a motion and a second on this item, discussion on the motion.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mayor, members of the council, citizens, we have spent a tremendous amount of time and money on this. It just seems to go on and on and on while our streets crumble. If we were to take the same energy that we've spent on this and get some street repair done, it would really, really please me. There's a couple of things about this that particularly offend me. I'm not going to tell a professional police officer how to do his or her job. I don't think that's my job. My job is to back the blue, and backing the blue is more than sticking a bumper sticker on the back of your car. I think we have to support these men and women, and they've stood up here tonight and told us where they come from on this, and they speak from experience. When I was Denton County Justice of the Peace, I signed hundreds of arrest warrants that were predicated with the odor of marijuana, and kidnapped children were found in the back seat, and guns were found in the trunk, and other drugs, all sorts of things that started with probable cause. I think that's very, very reasonable. I think we need to give clear and concise support to the police, and if this passes, that is to say, if my motion fails, we will get sued. We will get sued, and we will lose. And we'll lose, again, money that could be used to fix the streets that you and I drive on. I appreciate the second.
Councilman Meltzer.
Yeah, let me share my thought process that'll go into my no vote. I intend to offer a motion after if this motion doesn't succeed. I don't really have a quarrel with most of what I've heard from the police, or from the supporters of Proposition B. The way we settle those things, those points were all valid before the election. There was an election. That's how we settle things in this country. Now, I hasten to point out that Elgin, Harker Heights, San Marcos, Austin, yes, Killeen, also passed these. Some have had trouble with it, some have not. They all have city managers, they all have city attorneys, they all have chiefs of police. I'm not aware of the Attorney General's office contesting any of those. So, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But we have at least an opportunity to address the fact that we have a law that's on the books. Whatever is said here so far, we still have that law on the books, but it's not being enforced. So, okay, some people want to say, fire everybody who's been part of not enforcing it. I'm not in that camp. I want to get us all to the same side. If there are serious issues with implementing this, let's learn from Elgin, Harker Heights, San Marcos, Austin, Killeen. So I'm going to be proposing that we adopt the ordinance with an effective date in 60 days. I'm going to request that there be a staff report at 30 days that tells us what worked, what didn't, what adjustments had to be made for implementability in Elgin, Harker Heights, San Marcos, Austin, Killeen. And some of the things didn't work, and we shouldn't do the things that didn't work. And the things that did, we should do. And then I will ask that before 60 days, that we have an opportunity to review a staff recommendation, a markup, if you will, that takes into account community and staff input to improve the implementability. The people have spoken, whether you like it or not. That's, you know, that's how we do things. I've been on the brunt of, you know, winning and losing elections. That's how we do it. So let's get to the implementation, but taking in all the voices. I completely respect the input of the police, and I fully expect them to give guidance on how to adjust this so that we can do what is already on the books. And you've heard that there is opinion that it doesn't violate state law. So we don't know that yet. You know, that there's an opinion expressed that it flatly does. That's, you know, that is not a black and white statement of fact, especially with what you heard about 2019, especially with the fact that all these other cities have police chiefs. Some have implemented it. So all of that is why I'm voting no.
Council member, I'm assuming, Judge Holland, can you take your name? I think there's a remove thing there. And yes, there we go. And Councilman Bird, are you still?
I'm still on. I want to say one more thing.
By all means.
About this, what we're talking about right now. I do want to note that the medicinal use is legal in the state of Texas. But I also want to note that we're going to have to do a better job in sending the right people down there to Austin. What our problem is that we are not putting some people up against some of these other people that are going down to Austin and making these decisions. If we want a different, if we want a change, put the people in Austin to make the change. I've read where there are some legislators that have put in opportunities or needing a vote to decriminalize. It's down there, but it can't get out of the committee. And then there's this guy that signs off on everything. He's already noted that he's not going to sign off on this stuff. So that's our job right now as citizens, is to flip, put in candidates that can win so we can have the kind of vote that we need to make this kind of thing work. That's what we can do right now as advocates. I would advocate for that. And then that will come back to us and have us to do something different. But until the state of Texas legalizes fully, then we can go and do something different. The only other thing is that we've heard that our law enforcement officers department already considers this a low-level situation for them. They've already noted to us, this is not a high priority for us anyway. We're answering the 300 to 400 calls every day, and nobody's sitting around waiting. This is me talking. They didn't tell me this. And I don't think anybody's sitting around trying to figure out who has a couple of joints in their pocket, and they're walking. I can't imagine someone having a criminal background because of a marijuana joint in their pocket. So let's think on that. I just wanted to add that to the conversation as well. So there's a lot of work for us to still do on this, but as voters collectively, we've got to change those folks down there in Austin. All of this energy that we're putting up here, it could be going down there to make a difference there, or it could be done at the voting booth, and it could be done by putting some people up against these people that we have representing us down there in Austin. All right? I'm not ready to go to Austin yet, but at some point I guess I could, because if that means that you're going to have more rights, and put the people out there. That's your job to do that. That's our job to do that. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it bears repeating that regardless of our vote here tonight, this is still the law based on the petition. And I said this before, that all we are merely doing is providing council power to a budgetary item. And honestly, it gives coverage to the police. And I want to address this a little bit. There's been calls for heads to roll, for, oh, I'm afraid of being fired, or this person being fired, or that person. I don't think you're going to find any taste from this dais for officers to be fired, for police chiefs to be fired, for city managers to be fired. I think you can tell from my language, I am the most aligned on this issue, and I'm not going to call for people to be fired. I'm looking right out at all sides of the audience right now. I'm not going to call for it. I don't know what the other people will call for, but I'm not going to be calling for people to be fired at this time. All right? And I don't even have the power to call for police to be fired. That's up to the police leadership. All right? And it just says discipline in there anyway. Having said that, we are applying budgetary power. In fact, we are debating the only real municipal, actionable, supreme power that we have, which is our own budget. All right? Are we going to pay for the testing or not pay for the testing? All right? That is what we're essentially, because the rest of the law is already the law. All right, the rest of the general officer's principles are already that we don't use smell test. So if we find people solely using smell test, that's a problem. All right? If we, in fact, where I was going from the beginning was if this actually gives coverage to the officers doing their low-level decriminalization efforts, all right? Because now they can say, oh, there's no point in the local district attorneys or the city attorney prosecuting this because we can't do testing. We can't determine whether this is hemp or D8 or D9, THC, whichever you want to call it. We cannot tell because we can't fund the testing. So in order to not have some, let's continue with the narrative. Some rich college kid whose parent is going to have bags of money is going to sue us for, if we talk about being sued, we're going to get sued because they had hemp and they want to make a point. And we used the smell test to attack that. Well, all right, now they've seized something legal, they've destroyed something legal, all right, and we can't even test it because we destroyed it. It's better to just give our officers the coverage and saying the city did not authorize us to test it. I can't get a favorable prosecution. There is no point to doing this. If I need to do detective work, I'm going to find some other mechanism to do this. We are voting. We are waffling around the discipline issue, the firing issue, all these other things. We're not focusing on the budgetary power, which is our primary power in this instance. All right, the will of the people has already been spoken, period. The only thing we're offering new is should we fund or not fund testing? And it actually gives our officers coverage to say, I didn't want to do this anyway. All right, I wasn't sure in my heart of hearts whether it is legal or it's not legal, whether I can use the smell test or not, even though that's not supposed to be in your general orders. All right, I don't have to worry about any of this because the city attorney, the local district attorneys are not going to prosecute because it's not testable. Green leafy substance is green leafy substance. I can't prove what it is. I'm going to leave it there. So I think we're dancing all around all kinds of things that the community does or does not want, and we're not focusing on the real issue, and that is, are we adding budgetary power to the existing ordinance? So I'm going to be voting no to the repeal and adding and probably following something like Commissioner or Councilor Meltzer's idea. If we want to make changes that are disheartening to us, but I actually don't recommend it. Make it match the same as right now and just give it budgetary authority. And then during the 60 days that I asked for, make whatever changes make sense to the community and take in all the stakeholders. That's fine. That's cool. But we have 60 days to do that. All right? The one thing we're not focusing on is budgetary power, and I wish we would. So I'm going to be voting no to this and voting yes to something else.
All right. And Councilman Watts, I'm going to speak after you, and then we're going to vote. We're going to get this. We're going to move on. We have an entire agenda to get to. Councilman Watts.
I appreciate that. Thank you. let me start off by saying, and I said this in the work session last time on May the 16th, I don't disagree with the spirit of the ordinance, and that being, how do we mitigate, if not eliminate, the impact of low-level marijuana usage? I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of necessary disagreement from some of our police officers, because at the heart of that is discretion. So this is what's happened. We had an ordinance that was drafted from an outside organization that was not vetted with the city council, that was not necessarily vetted with the community other than the people that signed the petition, and it got voted on. Some of those provisions, at least down in Killeen recently, a judge has rendered some statements on the record in a case about enforceability, violation of the Texas Constitution, causes officers to violate their oath, and unenforceable against state law. So I'm not going to direct my question or my comment to a colleague based upon your comments, Councilmember Meltzer. So I'm going to address it to the mayor. Mayor, and I don't know if you pass it along or what, but I'm really disappointed and frustrated. We are here tonight because of Councilmember Beck, Mayor Pro Tem's Beck, 2-minute pitch that said, we want to validate the entire ordinance. This whole notion that somehow it's focusing on one little item, that could have been resolved 2 months ago. But that's not the 2-minute pitch that was presented. All right? It was, we're voting on this ordinance. I have a problem with telling officers to violate the laws as I read them. They're on the, if it's all a matter of opinion until it goes to court, folks, I mean, come on. We're all going to just say anything goes, all right? But we're here because someone asked for a 2-minute pitch to put this on to validate the voters' ordinance. There was no discussion about validating THC testing funds. I don't have an issue with that. You know, depending on how far it goes, the ordinance doesn't really give a limitation on an amount. So I'm voting against an ordinance that nobody on this council has vetted. Everybody's all over the road, all over the map on what they're saying is good, right, what'll work, what won't work. And I'm going to tell you, if we take Mayor Pro Tem's Beck argument, all right, that we've already got the ordinance on the books, why are you all here? You all are here because you think that it's not being enforced, that there's still these things going on, and that it's sort of just, it's as if nothing happened. That's why you're here. How in the world is that going to be any different than 60 days from now when staff comes back, probably with some suggestions of saying, we got to take some of this stuff out. We got to take some of this out because it violates state law. Now, we can listen to them or not. And guess what? You're all going to be right back here. And I support that. But I'm disappointed that this body, and I'm disappointed in the leadership of this movement in Denton, that we haven't been able to get creative to find a way, instead of it being black or white, on or off, yes or no. Because what are we asking the city manager to bring an implementation plan back of? A plan is the how. And Councilmember Meltzer can make all the motions he wants about in 30 days, give us something. Is that going to change the argument? We're all going to vote the same way depending on how we think the law is. So I'm not voting against this because I'm against the principle. I'm not. I think that people should not have their lives tremendously altered. In fact, I heard somewhere where if you have an arrest or something on low-level possession, that you might not be able to get a student loan. Well, I think we need to rethink that. But is the rethinking hitting a fly with a sledgehammer when none of us have sat down to try to figure out how do we do this practically? We all have the same interest. I don't think I'm that misaligned. But I'm not going to vote to take away the discretion of police officers that they've sworn an oath to. And the law, you can call whatever that 2019 law is all you want. All right? That just gives some processes and procedures. State law is still illegal. So How can we not find creative ways to mitigate or eliminate the impact? And I've heard some of the processes that the municipal judge has put in place that virtually almost does that. So I reject the notion that this is only about a budgetary process, because if it was, you would have said that. You did not say it. In your 2-minute pitch, sir, you said to approve the ordinance to alleviate any kind of discrepancy about powers of council. Because if we even just voted on that budgetary process, we still have the ordinance, correct? So if we vote and let me say this, when we vote on this ordinance, if it approves in whatever form, this is not the voter's ordinance anymore. We only had a ministerial duty to call the election and canvass the results. If we hadn't have done that, we'd have been breaking the law. But it was a ministerial duty. This is part of our elected official powers. So anybody up here that thinks that they're just voting to ratify something, no, you're voting to own it. And that's why it's important for me to make sure that I get it right to where it provides the maximum ability to meet the interests of all the parties involved. And quite frankly, this ordinance is not going to do that. We're going to keep talking about it. It's going to get passed with no changes, and we're going to keep having the same conversation. I mean, there was a council member, Mayor Pro Tem, who talks about he doesn't want to fire. That's fine. But there was a post put out about personnel reviews, about why are we not enforcing this? So I'm telling you, folks, if we can't start being truthful and authentic about really where we are, we're not going to get anywhere. And I'm not going to vote for an ordinance that I believe is against the law, that I believe takes away police officers' discretion, without even trying to find a creative process to meet those interests. So if that's the way we want to do it up here, we got a long road for the next couple of years, but I don't think that's really going to be the solution. So that's the only reason I even seconded the motion. And I wanted to make that clear, that I've heard what people have said about the impact, and I understand that. And I don't disagree with that. I just don't think this is the how to do it. I think there's a way to do it that meets everyone's interests without creating this division, this talk of racism in the police department, this talk of disparate impact. I don't even know if the data is correct when I hear those reports from outside the city data. So, if we want to keep doing it this way, that's fine. But I wanted to explain why I seconded it. Because some of you probably wonder. The paper said, it's a wake-up call for me this last election. Well, yeah, it's a wake-up call because we're going to keep having this conversation ad nauseum until we truly get together and have conversations about how do we make the best that we can work to meet the interests of not wanting people to suffer because of a decision of, I'm going to say, probably not that much consequence. So that's why I seconded it. So if it goes down in flames, I don't take it personally, but I know my conviction, and I've solved a lot of problems. I've been doing this for 13 years. And this is one of the most divisive issues, one of the most contentious issues I've ever seen in this community since I've been serving on this dais. And the sad part is, it doesn't have to be. That's the sad part. But as long as we keep doing it this way, we're going to get the same result. I'm sorry, Mayor, for taking up so much of your time, so much of the time. Thank you.
Okay. First, I want to say this. After a couple of hours here, a lot of angst for the past 3 weeks when we're supposed to not be relaxing, not having meetings, and I hear the proposal that, hey, let's do this again in 30 days. Not only no, but hell no. You know, no thank you. I appreciate it. I'm good, right? This is not on our council priorities. There's been not one complaint filed. These are facts. These are undisputed. And then we talk about the legal system, but I'm going to try to stay on task. I'm going to try to move expeditiously. But I need to create a record. I think all that have said that it's absolutely abhorrent for people to threaten people's jobs. We have families and you have collateral damage when that happens, all of us sign up for this, but our spouses, whoever you love, whoever your significant other is, didn't sign up for this, and it's absolutely torturous. And so for that anybody that's had long days, short nights, explaining to whoever your roommate is, your wife, whatever, I'm sorry. We have to do better. We have to unite. And hopefully this is the beginning of that refocusing on city priorities. I'll say it succinctly in summary so that everything I say goes under this context. Policing shouldn't be political. It just should not be. We don't vote on who gets speeding tickets. We don't vote on how we keep people safe. That's just not what we do. Those two are separate. And I want to touch on this because we've talked about all the different levels. We'll talk federal, state, and let's talk about the city charter at every level. This violates something in every level. So for example, Deja Taylor, if you don't know her, she's in the news in Virginia. She lied on the application to get a gun. Her son took the gun to school and shot a teacher. Here's what a newspaper article says about that. Though several states moved to legalize marijuana in recent years, including Virginia in 2021, that's where Deja Taylor lives, the drug remains illegal under federal law. We have a president now that is Democrat. Before him was a Republican. So we've had two shots at this to change it. And it says it remains illegal under federal law. Marijuana remains a controlled substance federally. Just like heroin, cocaine, it's a federal felony to use while armed with a gun. So that's the federal context. We've talked about the state context. I won't belabor that point. Let's talk about the county. The exact same ordinance in Bell County on May 25th. And this is undisputed. Judge Rick Morris of Bell County said there is no question that the proposition ordinance is contrary to Texas law, is unconstitutional, unenforceable, and invalid. Then he goes on to say, it seems that the injunction must be against officials such as the city secretary, mayor, or police chief. Those words are undisputed in Killeen, exact same ordinance. So if there's another judge that's issued something since May 25th, I'd love to read it. We've had, again, 0 complaints. And then let's just talk about the city charter, because that to me is most important. City charter sets term limits, and I'm certain there's several of y'all that don't want to see me for a 4th term. Now, right now, the charter says you can't do it. You get 3 terms. And side joke, and it's kind of funny. In true Black History Month form, I got shorted 6 months because the pandemic hit and our election got pushed. So I don't get my full 6 years if I serve to term. I only get 5 years and some change. So it's a February shortest day of the year joke. You'll get it later. Because that's Black History Month. So what I'm saying is the charter is what gave these citizens to right to exercise their voice, which I support. But the charter also says we don't get to tell our staff members what to do from this dais. It's section 2.10 of the city charter. Read it for yourself. If you find a gap in it, you email it to me. But it's pretty concise, it's been validated and confirmed, and it's undisputed. So everything I've said thus far, undisputed. Deja Taylor has an attorney, is pleading guilty. The judge in Bell County has issued his statements, those are undisputed. The city charter that guides us, that you don't want a council that's willing to ignore its own set of rules, the most local set of rules we have. You don't want that. And then let's go on to let me give you an example, and I will tell you, the shots about African Americans, this, that, or the other, man, that's hard for me to hear. We have more black people on this council than we've ever had in the history of the city of Denton. And everyone sitting here that talks about that's an issue didn't want me in this seat. So if they had it their way, we still wouldn't have a black mayor in Denton, but they wanted to tell me that they're looking out for me. I disagree, but it's okay. We should work together to find common solutions. And here's what, and Councilmember Holland touched on it. You know what people don't disagree with? They disagree with the construction of it, but people don't disagree with fixing roads, with making sure we support our community, make sure we have parks, make sure they're walkable, make sure we have sidewalks. That's what we, and I campaigned on those things. I campaigned on staying in the news less. So everyone absolutely was abundantly clear where I stood on things, and they had a choice, and they made that choice, and I agree. Elections matter. And I'm going to stand by what I committed to tell the voters I was going to do, and that won't change. So that's what, but I want to give you an example really quick of where we can affect change from a racial standpoint. When I was 16, I took a driver's test. You know, you go to DPS, you drive around the neighborhood, you come out. DPS officer says, hey, that four-way intersection, I'm going to mark off. Now, don't worry, I passed with a 70. But he said, I'm going to mark off at this intersection because you made a complete stop and there's not a stop sign. And so I thought for a second, and that officer was biased. He wasn't mean, he wasn't mean-spirited. We just needed to build relationship. Because where I'm from, that stop sign was stolen and it was in somebody's house, so I stopped. Where he's from, they purposely left it off. Two different upbringings, so that's where we can build community. That's where we can talk to each other. We can learn each other. We can go, I see the officers in the schools, connecting with kids, the Citizen Academy, connecting with the community. That's where we get to learn each other. That's where we build community. That's where we break down those things. My dad and Pastor Chambers worked, and it's been a number of years, to host police officers at Mount Calvary Church. Those are how we, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a church, at any community event, cones with cops, coffee with cops. That's where we build community, not this, where we come in here and tear each other down, call each other liars for 2 hours. That's very disruptive, very disheartening. And the budget thing, I'll tell you, we had this thing proposed. Councilmember Davis proposed it. It came forward. We set a budget every year. That's what we do. We don't need this 2-hour process to set a budget to decide what we're going to spend money on. We're going to do that anyway. Whether this passes or fails, we have a budget process. It'll be about $1.9 billion this year, and none of this time that we're spent is on our priority list anywhere. So it's challenging that we're taking away from so many things. And then I'll just say this. Our officers can work with our community and continue to work. If they violate their state licensing, they cannot continue to work. They lose their livelihood. And we're just kind of haphazard about it. It's like, let's see what a court says. Meanwhile, they lose their job. It is very serious to them. They take their job very serious. They're licensed by the state. And so it's not weighed equally in my estimation. And then all the extra work they do. So look in the news. You can look at Fox 4 News had a good video clip of it. There was a bull running around on Linden Street by First Refuge. We have an animal services department, but who do we call? Police. Who ended up with a tranquilizer? Some other rancher dude. It wasn't even the animal services department. But so police are called to do all these different things, right? And they're put in all these different situations. And so I just appreciate, and it's not that they get it right always, right? But I appreciate that Chief Dixon, when the George Floyd thing, he led on that. He said, hey, this is not good. We had 5,000 plus protesters in Denton, and we had one arrest, and no major violence issues. That's because we have community. That's because we have leaders that are doing exactly what some of my peers said, building community, listening, being responsive, and taking care of each other. So that to me is important. And when it comes down, just when I'm making this decision, it's simply, do I trust someone at this dais to tell me how policing should work? Or do I trust the officers that do it day in and day out, what they need to make it work? I'm going to go for the latter, and I could just be wrong as the day, as long as that's okay. So here's my statement, and so I'll conclude with this. I just happened to see this when I was in Ohio, and it's a statement by William M. McCullough, and I'll tell you why I think it's spot on. We are a nation of many people and many views. In such a nation, the prime purpose of a legislator from wherever he may come is to accommodate the interests, desires, wants, and needs of all citizens. To alienate some in order to satisfy others is not only a disservice to those we alienate, but a violation of the principles of our republic. Lawmaking is the reconciliation of divergent views in a democratic society like ours. The purpose of representative government is to soften tension, reduce strife, while enabling groups and individuals to more nearly obtain the kind of life they wish to live. So why I picked, I didn't even know, I thought it was a beautiful statement, but I didn't know anything about him. So I look it up, and here's what's interesting to me. He's credited by JFK and Lyndon B. Johnson and the First Lady for being a pivotal piece in the civil rights movement and getting those laws passed. Matter of fact, he stood against the Democrats that would oppose his legislation, because they watered down the voting rights, and so he said, give me something with teeth and I'll support it and we'll get it passed. And he did. And he's in a district where it was 2.5 maybe % African American. So it wasn't like he needed the votes. He could have absolutely ignored them. He did it because it's the right thing to do. And bringing people together is the right thing to do. And so that's why I am absolutely done with this topic. Hopefully, if this goes the way I would like it to, and we can get back to running our city and fixing some streets and making sure we help you with your utility bills as it's about to get real hot, and making sure we have water as we have communities that are running out of water. And those are critical things that we can all rally around and take care of each other and make sure those that need mental health services are provided for. So with that, the motion on the table made by Councilmember Holland, seconded by Councilmember Watts. In effect, it leaves the citizen referendum in place, which is not a proposition. It is an absolute ordinance of the City of Denton. It is on the books as written, as voted on, unchanged, unedited. Exactly what you voted on is on the books right now. It'll be on the books tomorrow. What we're not doing is duplicating efforts, and that's what that is, to say that we don't need to redo it and that we can budget. The budgeting issue is an issue, but we pass a budget every year. We work with the city manager to do that every year, and that's unchanged. So you can vote on the screen. And this vote is a yes, is to not duplicate the ordinance and make it a council ordinance. A no is to duplicate the go ahead.
Well, no, a no just means this fails, and then
Yes.
it's whatever opened up
That is right.
on the rest of the day.
That's right. Yeah, we're back to it. Right. And so, Mr. City Attorney, can you help me just make sure I said that succinctly? Because I don't want to confuse anything, and that's not my forte.
No, I think you got that exactly right. You vote yes if you want to deny this ordinance being approved.
Okay, there we go. Vote on the screen, please. And that, the motion passes, the ordinance
It's denied.
is denied, 4-3. Let's take a 10-minute break to let the room clear. We'll be back to do our other consent agenda items and get to our public hearings, and we'll move along expeditiously. Thank you very much for everyone that came out. Good evening and welcome to back to this meeting of the Denton City Council. It is 9:33. We're back on the record, and we are taking up the two. I don't know, huh? Maybe they're in the back setting it up. Yeah. Might check. Yeah. Huh. Check. I don't know. Steve. Mayor Watts wants to go check. Maybe Steve. There we go. So we are at the consent agenda.